Hey YouTube, welcome back to New Rock City. I'm Stephen Moss, and today on our second episode, we have a very special guest, Hena Larkin from Bristol, England, is going to be joining us. Thank you very much.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thank you. Also today, on this episode, we're going to be sharing some music videos from Hena as well. So I can't wait to share those with you guys. But to start us off today, I'll hand it over to Lauren, and she's got some questions for you.
Hi, Hena. Thanks so much for being here. So my first question to you is, there's so many great musicians that wrote poetry. Jim Morrison, Bob Dylan, John Lennon, Lou Reed, the list goes on. Did any inspire you to write poetry? And if so, whom?
Yeah, absolutely. Within the punk scene, I'm a huge fan of Henry Rollins, and I love his spoken word. I have a few books of his poetry as well. So definitely, growing up in kind of hardcore punk and street punk, he was someone that kind of showed that was an option. But a lot of the lyricists that I like outside of punk are kind of poets anyway. Like I'm a big Neil Young fan, Warren Zevon, people like that who it's poetry-esque in what they do as well.
Oh, cool. I love Henry Rollins too. I went to one of his spoken words. He's pretty cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm a big Henry Rollins fan, and Black Flag, of course. But yeah, I saw nice. I saw that. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not perfect. It was done very badly by a 15-year-old friend of mine when I was about 16, 17. In the back of a reptile shop after hours where he worked.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes it even better.
A little bit dodgy.
That story is totally punk.
Yeah, I call it the Black Blob.
Yeah. When you got a story behind the tattoo, that's even better. So my next question to you, Hena, how do you think the political climate in the UK, the current political climate, influenced your music and your poetry?
Oh yeah, I mean, it influences me constantly. The majority of the stuff that I write is probably political. A good chunk of it is anyway. And it's going in a bad direction at the moment. It has been for a few years really in this country. Much like in America up until the recent election, things have just been kind of shifting to the right for a few years now. And the two are so interlinked, because of Trump's success in America, it normalizes further right politics across the west of the world, especially, the Western world and Europe. So that enables Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, to kind of shift right with his politics as well. And so the center ground just slowly moves in that direction. So it's something I write about a lot. I performed at a few protests and things. I try and be quite politically active. And I think that's what punk rock should be, It doesn't have to be, but it's one of the things that drew me to punk rock was the kind of activist part of it and the will to actually change something instead of just writing about it, as a bystander.
Now, you had mentioned that because of the success of Trump, it's made it more normal or mainstream for other leaders. Before Trump was a thing, was that type of far right nationalism, was that more underground? Were people so vocal about it, or what was it like before Trump?
Yeah, it's something that's been bubbling. I mean, it's something that's always existed in this country, unfortunately. Going back generations, there has been the National Front, and which evolved into kind of the BNP, and then about 10 years ago, there was quite a lot of far right street movements. The EDL, the English Defence League, were probably the most notable one, and it all kind of centers around anti-immigration stance and stuff a lot here. So that's tied in a lot with Brexit. Not the reason that everyone voted Brexit, certainly, but a lot of the people who voted for it were doing it across kind of immigration lines. So that stuff was definitely here, and still is and would be here without Trump. But Trump just made it kind of easier for people who were even further right than that. There was a kind of accepted right wing, and then there's further sections than that, and they kind of got normalized, I think, by some of Trump's rhetoric and his basic, essentially support for white supremacist movements, in his reluctance to speak against them or take any public issue with them. He kind of normalized that stuff, and then there has been, I think, an increase in those kind of groups starting up here is something you see in the papers not infrequently, that there will be like arrested members for people arrested for being in illegal far right organizations, like white supremacist organizations here. I think he's definitely made that more acceptable.
He's definitely emboldened them to come out and think it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when the president of the United States doesn't say it's a bad thing to be a Nazi, then it's gonna, embolden those people, isn't it? Of course it will. And there's a lot of people who've been waiting a long time for someone powerful to kind of give them the okay. I didn't really think it was going to happen. But now that Trump's been voted out of office, and after everything that happened at the Capitol, which was incredible to watch for all the wrong reasons.
So along the political climate that you were discussing, do you think that's drawn more people to punk, or has it influenced at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the people who get involved with punk rock do it because of the politics. That's, like I say, that's certainly what drew me to it. I was very into heavy metal growing up. I still am. I still like a lot of that music, but that was kind of I was like obsessively into like Slayer and Slipknot and people like that who are all great bands and who I've seen live and enjoyed. But the lack of substance in a lot of the lyricism was what kind of made me kind of grow tired of that, because it was just repetitive themes, often anti-Christian kind of imagery, hell, death, Satan, etc., etc. There's only so many times you can listen to that. Whereas the thing I like about punk rock is that it evolves with the political climate, because people like the anti-flag flag that you have behind you, bands like that write about what's happening, in the moment. And so the album that they write in 10 years will be different from what they're writing now, because the politics has evolved. Whereas a heavy metal band, the album they write in 10 years is quite likely to have the similar themes as to what they have now, because it's more about imagery and invoking a certain kind of mood, as opposed to reacting to necessarily what's happening in society, which isn't true for the whole genre, of course, but as a by and large kind of thing. So yeah, I think politics draws a lot of people into punk rock.
Well, I kind of wanted to touch on that, because when many people think of punk, they think of that explosion that happened in the late 70s, 80s with the Sex Pistols and bands like that. And then it got really big in the US and then kind of fizzled out. During the 70s, 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, did the punk scene ever really go away in the UK, or how is it today?
I don't think it ever went away, but it definitely went underground. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think punk rock is not for everyone, and that's fine. I think the majority of punk musicians who I know, as much as obviously everyone would like to make like millions of pounds or whatever, realistically, we're not trying to reach everyone in the world with our music. We're trying to reach the people who it's going to resonate with, and the people to whom it makes sense to. And that might always be a minority of music listeners, but that's okay. So it definitely moved further underground after the kind of initial Sex Pistols driven 70s explosion here. And also what's interesting that ties the last two questions together is that a lot of the younger kind of UK punks that I know grew up predominantly on the American stuff. I mean, some people, their parents were punks or something, so they grew up with the Clash or whatever, but a lot of people, I have multiple friends who got into punk rock purely through the Tony Hawk's PlayStation games. So they got into Perfects and Blink. Yeah, they had great music on it, so I get it. Personally, I grew up listening to, because my dad listened to it, I grew up listening to like a lot of Stooges and New York Dolls and kind of the pre-punk American stuff. Gotcha. And then, as I say, when I got more politicized, I got very into the Clash, and who are my favorite band probably, and Anti-Flag, and bands that had certain messages. But yeah, the lack of mainstream or kind of easily findable British punk for a few decades is why a lot of younger UK punk bands sound kind of Americanized, I think, in their sound, because that's what they grew up on.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your albums. You have 2 demo EPs on bandcamp.com. The first one is Desperation Demos Volume 1 and Desperation Demos Volume 2. Can you tell us a little more about those demos?
Yeah, absolutely. Desperation Demos, or Depression Demos, as you almost called it, works perfectly. That's exactly what they were. I'd spent I spent a few years playing in punk rock bands. I played bass predominantly, and writing lyrics for bands and singing a bit. And then I just got tired of having to organize people and do all of the kind of the boring stuff, you know, the making sure everyone turns up to practice on time and booking everything and organizing everything. And so when I gave up on the band I had, before I started the solo stuff, I had a band called Disposable Lovers. We were like a grungy band. We're on YouTube, you can look us up, but you don't have to. When I gave up doing that, I just thought, what's the thing that would be the kind of the easiest to do and give me the most control over the message? And, you know, the problem with writing political lyrics when you're in a band is that not everyone's necessarily going to agree on them. I mean, the anti-fascist stuff, you would hope, you know, but some of the more specific political points that I might make, my drummer might not think that, you know, which is fine. So I don't want to sing songs in front of some other musicians and make it look like we were all united on some viewpoint if that's not how they feel. I think that's not cool. So the joy of doing the acoustic stuff was I could really kind of express myself just as me, as Hena, without having to worry about, am I kind of tarring other people with the same brush, perhaps wrongly, you know? So that's why I started doing it. And the first EP, DDP1, was just something I threw together very quickly. I think, been playing guitar for like 2 months at that point, and it shows. But I just, you know, I had some songs, and a friend of mine wanted to record it, was happy to record it in his spare room. And so that's what we did. And then the one after, Something Politics, was again, I'd started gigging, I'd written a bunch of political songs. I was like, let's throw it out, recorded it in my friend Tady, shout out Tady, in his front room. And they're all super DIY, super, you know, low quality. No offense to the producers, but they do the job, you know, and they put the music out, and that's all they were meant to do.
No, I love it. The second one, Something Politics, I love. I've been listening to it since I bought it. Which kind of made me think, because you had mentioned you have a new single coming out on February the 12th. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, I do.
Okay. And you'd mentioned you have an EP coming out as well that will be available on all streaming services. When you have the new EP, are you going to re-record some of those old songs, or is it going to be completely new? What's it going to be like?
It's going to be all new stuff, I reckon, mate. I've got so much material that it's ridiculous. I have hundreds of these little 4-chord punk rock songs. So I don't have the time to go back and do the old stuff. There's too much new stuff that needs doing. But what's cool about so first of all, there's a single coming out, which is, as you say, coming out in like 3 weeks, called Fiendin', which is like it's a bit different. It's kind of a love story. It's kind of like a tragedy, drug story, based half in reality, half in fiction, you know. So that's something a little bit different to what I normally do. And it has a second guitarist on it as well, my friend Ryan, who played on Class War, that you might have seen. He's doing some slide guitar stuff on it. So it's kind of like a moody, different sounding thing. But then the EP that's coming after that, which is still in the early stages, it's recorded, but it needs to be mixed and stuff, is actually recorded with Tady, who did my second EP many years ago. And it's cool because that time, when we did the second EP, we did it in his front room, and it was all super DIY. I think some of the mic stands might have been like taped together, gaffer tape and stuff. And now that guy's running a little studio, and so we actually did it in a proper space. And it's cool that it shows how we both progressed kind of in parallel, you know, to come back together and make some music. So that's going to be all new to recorded stuff. Some of the songs I've been playing for a little while live, but new in terms of putting them out. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we can't wait for it. That sounds great.
We can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
You have a song called Tory Bastard, and also in the song 5 More Years, you sing, so it's 5 more years of Tories. I wasn't really sure what a Tory was, so I tried to look it up, and that took me down a deep rabbit hole of James Duke York, and a very long rabbit hole to where I kind of forgot where I started. So can you simplify what you mean by a Tory?
Absolutely, yeah. You probably over-researched that one, which is to your credit. But yeah, there's basically two major political parties in this country, much like there is in yours. We have the Labour Party, the left-wing party. We have the Conservatives, who are the right-wing party. The Conservatives are also called the Tories. I don't know the reason why. Maybe you do now, because you've obviously looked into it more than I have. But I've just grown up in this country where that's just what we call them. Much like, I don't know, you say like the Dems, right, for Democrats. It's just a maybe slightly more creative nickname that they use themselves as well. It's not a slur or anything. Tory politicians, I think, refer to themselves as Tories. I think they do. So I don't know the origin of it, but it's just the right wing government that we have, which we've had now for a long time in this country, and are making things much harder for the majority of people, really.
Now, you said 5 more years. Now, in this country, the president runs for 4 years. Is that for 5 years in the UK?
Yeah, it used to be they didn't used to be fixed terms, so they would run, and then they could kind of the party that was in charge could essentially choose when they were going to call the election within I think a 5-year window. There was a limit. Obviously, you couldn't just stay in power forever, but you could choose to. So people would choose to call it when their popularity ratings were up, and try and kind of do things around certain issues. So then they brought in fixed terms of 5 years, but then that hasn't really been the case, because we've had what feels like 100 elections in the last 2 years, because after the Brexit vote, everything just kind of collapsed politically in this country, and it's become being the prime minister of this country has become kind of a poison chalice thing, where anyone who takes it over, their whole political career just falls apart very quickly. So they keep having to do more elections because they can't find anyone who wants the job, basically.
It's similar to how things are here in the US. Definitely.
Yeah, when I was researching all that, I found a really funny definition that I just wanted to read to you of Tory, which I found from urbandictionary.com. And it says, a Tory is a piece of shit asshole who smells like dirty feet, hot dog water, and dried up old socks. If you ever cross one, run for your life.
Wow, I wish I came up with that when you asked me the question. Now that's much better than my answer. Maybe you should be interviewing whoever wrote that. They seem really good.
So I wanted to take this time and just play one of your videos. We just had a historic transfer of power in the United States, so I think it would be really appropriate to play the video of yours, You Fascist Bound to Lose.
Sounds good.
Go ahead, let's show what a couple of hellbats can do.
Well, I'm gonna tell you fascists, you may be surprised. People in this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Let's go.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose.
You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. There's people of every nation marching side by side. Oh, we're marching across them fields where 1 million fascists died. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Wreckage.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose.
Come here.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose.
For God's sake. You're bound to lose.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose.
One more time.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose.
You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Yeah.
All right, welcome back. That video and the song tied in perfect for what was going on in this country.
Oh, I wish I wrote that song. That's an old Woody Guthrie song.
Oh, really?
Who's a big influence of mine. I mean, the guy wrote like hundreds of songs, so I'll forgive you for not knowing every single one. I certainly don't. But it's just one that resonated with me. You know, I'm very vocal in my opposition to fascism. I have been for a long time, both in music and in kind of more direct street movements and things, especially when I was younger. Yeah, I think it was important. It felt important that in my set I would include something about that, and so I'd written a few songs that were about the topic and were anti-fascist, and then I heard that by Woody Guthrie, and I was like, this is better than all the things I'm going to write about it. Like it was perfect. It's so simple, it's so singable, and it just works. And so I don't really do covers much in my acoustic stuff because, as I said, I've got a lot of songs of my own. I don't really feel the need to learn other people's, but that was one where it was the thing where I can't write. I felt like I was incapable of writing a song that better summarized the importance of the message I was trying to get across. And also because of when it was written, in the 40s, you know, the first time around. So I think it's such a powerful message that still, the fact that it still resonates today is both powerful and kind of saddening in a way. So it just became a bit of a thing that I started doing it at a few of my shows, and people really enjoyed it, and it's become like a big sing-along thing, as you saw in the video. And that was actually after one of the events that I run. We just kind of decided to have some fun with it, along with Red Terror, actually, in the video. We played the show. Yeah, so I wish I wrote that song, but unfortunately, Woody Guthrie did.
Well, that's awesome.
Well,
No, I didn't know that, so I'll definitely have to look that up after this.
Yeah, do. Yeah, always look up more Woody Guthrie stuff, always.
But speaking about your songs, what I do love about your music is, even though I don't understand all of your colloquial sayings, your message about the elitist oligarchy, the rich abusing the poor, and government bloodlust, that's something that can resonate with anyone from any country. Specifically, your song War Money, I can really take that to heart as an American, because the United States has been at war 93.5% of the time that it's been in a country. That song talks about how even when there's no money for schools or hospitals or even for the people, the government always seems to find a way to make money for war. Did you think of the USA at all when you were writing that song?
I don't think it was specifically about the USA, but our kind of warmongering of our governments is so intertwined. Like when the USA goes to war, we tend to kind of follow them in. Similarly, we have huge problems in this country. We have millions of kids growing up in poverty in this country. We have a huge homeless crisis, and the money just somehow, well, not somehow, I know exactly why, because it's where all, because it generates more money for the people making these decisions, but the money just goes into the arms industry, of which we're one of the biggest producers of arms in the world in this country. It's our biggest export. So it goes into the arms industry, and it lines the pockets of the people in power, basically. Yeah, so it definitely applies to America as well. And our politics are so hard to separate, because, like I said, like with the Trump thing, if America shifts to the right, it naturally shifts the UK to the right a little bit. And there'll be plenty of people in this country that were fans of Donald Trump, I'm sure. America's influence is so big in the world, but I think also especially in this country, because our governments have the special relationship, as they call it over here, which basically just means if America fuck up, we have to fuck up too. Which is not the greatest deal in the world, but yeah. But it's great that it resonates, because that's something I've been really surprised by after I started this, because I play a lot of not huge venues in mostly in the south of England, and yet on social media, Facebook especially, most of my following I think is in America. And when I put the EPs available online, most of those sales, especially the few physical ones that are left, which I only did because of the lockdown here, so I couldn't sell them at shows like I normally would. Most of those went out overseas, and a lot of those were sold to America. So it's really cool that's happened. It's not something I really anticipated at all when I started doing this, but I'm grateful that people like it anywhere.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I love your video for Class War, because when you were mentioned about the arms deal, there was a lot of information about the UK selling weapons and so forth that I wasn't aware of. So I wanted to take this time to actually show that video so people can learn about that and also hear the song. So here is Class War.
Rich are pulling for a race war. For them it ends better than a class war. Class war, class war, class war, class war, class war. Oh, who's selling the guns? Whoa, that's how the war is won. And ain't it funny when you follow the money? It all goes one way, and it's never your way. War profiteering as the end is nearing. Future stealing, flags waving, crowd keep cheering. The rich are pulling for a race war. For them it ends better than a class war. Class war, class war, class war, class war, class war. Oh, homegrown austerity to the enemy in the Middle East. The media and state partnership in selling hate as they bleed our country dry. MP salaries still rise. Do you think they care about you? I don't think they care about me. Not at all. The rich are pulling for a race war. For them it ends better than a class war. Class war, class war, class war, class war, class war. Oh, who's selling the guns? Whoa, that's how the war is won. Pulling for a race war. For them it ends better than a class war. Class war, class war, class war, class war, class war. Oh, who's selling the guns? Whoa, that's how the war is won.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. I just wanted to ask one thing about the NHS. And that's one thing that's personal to me because a few years ago, I needed brain surgery and I did not have health insurance at the time. So what I ended up having to do was email doctors all across the United States. And I said, look, I'm 21 years old. I have a brain tumor. Can you help me? And all I kept hearing was, nope, can't help you. Nope, can't help you. Doctors telling me practically to my face, sorry, kid, you're just going to have to die because you don't have health insurance. It took 4 months and I finally was able to get surgery. But because of that experience, it really got me talking to a lot of my friends and family that are in Canada and Germany and Wales. And I started hearing about the universal healthcare systems in other countries. Can you briefly explain for our listeners who might not be aware of what the NHS really does? Can you explain how that works for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. The NHS is incredible, man. It's one of the best things about this country politically and socially. Say you go out on a night out, you break your leg, you go in an ambulance, you go to the hospital, they patch you up, you go home. There's no bills, you don't get charged for being in an ambulance or anything like that. Our taxes, that's what you pay taxes for. Why are you paying taxes if they can't do things like that and help the people when they're in need? I don't understand. I do understand because, again, the money is siphoned off by the people at the top of our society. But in theory, that's the point, right? Otherwise, why do we pay tax on anything? So it's great. And one thing I was going to ask you about, actually, is how has that been working with COVID? Because do people have to pay for the vaccine, or how does that work in your country?
It's supposed to be free, but it's not. There are many times, my chiropractor that I went to this morning, he was telling me about he had to pay $295 to get the vaccine. So that's been a lot of issues where politicians have lied because people are saying, oh, well, this is an exception to the rule because it's a worldwide pandemic. You should be able to get the vaccine free. So many places in this country will have free days, or if you can go on that day, you can get it for free. It's been handled differently through every state and different cities. So I can't really answer your question and say this is how it's done in America because it's all a big clusterfuck and it's all different.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
well, fair enough.
I live in New Jersey, and New Jersey is a very blue state. So for the most part, most people that I have talked to did not have to pay for any vaccine or COVID test. But as was brought out by my chiropractor, that's not always the case.
Yeah. See, that's crazy to me. The governments have enough money. There's a massive pandemic. People are thousands of people will die. if they're not, well, more, you know, if they're not able to pay for this thing. It seems, especially in the interest of, you know, getting the economy back on track and all this stuff they always say they care about. Well, the sooner everyone's vaccinated, the sooner everyone's working, the sooner everything is operating as normal. So you'd think, be in their best interests in the long run, there being the politicians, to roll these things out for free, because it will, you know, get society back in the way that's always benefited them anyway. So yeah, the NHS is great. I mean, it's being diminished year after year because of successive Tory governments have been selling off certain sections. So you know, other like smaller parts within the medical trade in this country have been privatized, and that's an ongoing thing for a long time, in their kind of push against kind of socialist values, really, in taking. But the problem is, I don't understand, but I can see to an extent why some people oppose socialism in the interest of seeing from other perspectives. But when you take away the things that socialism gives you, so your taxes in this country currently go to the NHS. If we stop funding the NHS, our taxes don't go down. You know, the taxes still keep going up like they always do. Just the money goes somewhere else, and the money just goes to the rich people who have got enough. It's not like, oh, if we, you know, stop paying for these socialized parts of our society, we'll suddenly have loads more money. It just doesn't work like that. So I don't understand really why people wouldn't be okay with this idea. We all pay into a pot, and then the pot helps everyone, you know. Right. And that's what the NHS is in theory.
I just kind of wanted to go a little further on that, because that is such a hot topic in the United States right now, because Bernie Sanders, he is ran on a platform of universal health care, and he lost on that. And many people are just afraid of that. But I just wanted to point out, you had mentioned, well, if you have an accident, you break an arm or whatever, you go to the hospital to get patched up. Is there any copays or deductibles, or do you have to pay for an ambulance ride? Are there any cost at all associated with your scenario of breaking a leg?
Nothing. The last 2 times I've been to hospital, I kind of try and avoid doctors and hospitals just because I'd rather not be there. But the last 2 times, the only 2 times in the last few years that I've ended up in hospital is when I just drank far too much on nights out at punk rock shows or other things, you know, and got alcohol poisoning. And I had 2 ambulance rides that I have no memory of, and I woke up in hospitals, and I walked out, went back home, and that was it. And they'd done whatever they needed to do to make me okay, you know. And that's the deal. It's great. It's a good system, man. I don't know why. It's crazy from this side to see why other countries wouldn't want to have it. It could definitely be better in this country in terms of the employees of the NHS could be much better paid and should be much better paid, especially for what they're dealing with in the current kind of crisis. You know, it's showing exactly how reliant we are upon them. And the years of defunding the NHS because of the right-wing governments that are trying to privatize sections of it has left us more vulnerable to this virus than we would have been otherwise, which is why our statistics for it are so horrific. But the fact that we still have an NHS, and hopefully we'll still have one for years to come, is great. It's definitely one of the best things about the UK, in my opinion.
That's just amazing to me, and it almost sounds fake because it's so far-fetched from anything that happens here. Even something like an ambulance ride is over $3,500 in the United States. And when somebody...
not many people have that money.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
When somebody has a baby, the average baby is $10,000 to $30,000 for hospital cost.
That is madness, isn't it? I mean, that's insane. Anyone could see that that's insane, surely.
Madness. That's the word, is madness.
Yeah. So I didn't want to go too deep into, the politics of the different countries because I want to focus on your music. However, that's just a topic that I really wanted to beat home with people because there's so much misinformation in this country. So thank you for sharing your experience and your perspective on that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I'm happy to talk about anything.
What are some of your goals as a musician?
Play a show at some point because it's been so long. I don't remember what it feels like. That's the short term. Well, that's the long term, I guess, at the rate that we're going at. I haven't been on stage in almost a year because we've been in lockdowns. This is the 3rd national lockdown that we've had in the last 9 months or so, which means that everything is shut. There's supermarkets open, and that's it. And there's hospitals and stuff, obviously, but that's it. So there's no live entertainment. So that's rough. It's a lot rougher on a lot of my friends who are working entirely in the music industry. I'm a student for 6 more months, so I'm kind of skating by a little bit. Okay, for now. I mean, it's not great, but it's, like I say, better than a lot of my friends. I know people who run venues that have had to shut down and stuff like that. You know, when music, kind of live music, returns in this country, it's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like, because the touring circuit is going to be heavily damaged by all of this time off and lack of kind of support from the government. So right now, that's a big aim, is just to kind of get back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But long term, I mean, it's just keep on going, really keep on spreading the messages that I think are important. Keep on kind of entertaining, and they're not just political messages. You know, I have songs about mental health and addiction and things that I've experienced and things that I've seen, you know, from friends. So I try and keep my music positive. I try and keep that PMA, you know, like Bad Brains taught me. So that's the big aim, is just to keep going with it. Keep getting music out as well. Like I said, I've got this new stuff coming out, and I'm excited because it's a higher quality than the stuff that's come out in the past. And just keep bettering myself as a solo musician. And I want to get some more full band stuff going. I briefly had some stuff working with a band in between 2 of the lockdowns, but now we're back in one again, so that's all on hold because all the spaces are shut and no one can go anywhere, you know. So, but that's what I miss, the noise of playing in a full punk rock band and jumping off amp stacks and doing all that stuff. That's good fun. So I'm hoping to kind of get back to that as well at some point. I just want to get busy, man. Like it's a lot of time stuck in this room over the last year, and it's a lot of time to write songs, but that's not much fun if no one gets to hear them. So
well, I hope to see you across the pond one day and have you play shows in and around the New York City area. That would be awesome.
That would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, you pay for my plane flight and I'll put you on the guest list. How's that?
Or maybe we could meet you over in the UK. That would be awesome. I've always wanted to go there.
Absolutely. Yeah. If ever you need a sofa to crash on, hit me up in Bristol. I got space for you guys.
if we're ever in Bristol.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, if, speaking of touring, when that does come back, if you could tour with any band, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. I would tour with Kiss because I'd make a load of money and then I could do whatever I wanted. But not if I had to talk to Gene Simmons, because I don't think I could handle that. I would tour with, there's loads of people, man, that I'd love to play with. Anti-Flag's in my head, but that's just because I keep seeing the poster, I think. But I do love Anti-Flag a lot. They're one of the bands I've seen the most. I'm a huge Bad Religion fan as well. In terms of the acoustic stuff, I think if I could get regular gigs with a band like Anti-Flag, who are very politically turned on, I think I could probably do pretty well with that crowd. But right now, I'd take gigs with anyone. There's loads of UK legends that I've had the luxury of supporting in the past. UK Subs, one of my all-time favorite bands. Oh, yeah. Anyone who knows me who's watching this will say I never shut up about. But legendary 70s UK punk rock band. I've had the pleasure of playing a bunch of shows with them, and they're amazing. So Vice Squad and a few others. I've been kind of lucky to get on a few bills with cool people, but yeah, it's hard to picture playing a show in my local pub, let alone doing a big tour with someone established right now, because it all seems so distant, you know.
Well, I talked earlier about your song 5 More Years, and so I want to go ahead and play that, and then we'll come back with a couple more questions for you.
Cool.
So it's 5 more years of Tories. There was fear in the balance again. Oh, it's 5 more years of Tories. I know some of us won't make it till the end. Cause the bedroom taxes already claim lives. The NHS will be privatized. Reds on rights keep spewing their lies. Won't be read by me cause they're blue inside. Disability, they'll put you out on the street willingly. There will be no mercy, no remorse, cause the Tory vote was out in force. But we can try to thrive, organize, and if we pick up battles, if we choose our fights, do direct action, take it back to the street, work in spite of our leaders, and undermine the elite. Oh. are free. We are the future, so the future's what we want it to be. So we are many, we are strong, we are free. We are the future, so the future's what we want it to be. Well, alright then. Dig way into the streets are paved with gold. Nowadays that's all been sold to the Russians occupying London. You can wait 5 more years for democracy, but a ballot in a box, and it comes complete with a carefully placed cross. And we can hope and pray that it makes a change, or we can try to rise, organize, and if we pick our battles and we choose our fight, choose direct action, take it back to the street, walk in spite of our leaders, undermine the elite. Oh. We are many, we are strong, we are free. We are the future, so the future's what we want it to be. So we are many, we are strong, we are free. We are the future, so the future's what we want it to be. Well, alright then. They ran a negative campaign, fear-mongering with the SNP, and a Scottish lion roared, but it won't do shit for me, cause I'm way down south, and just hoping to see silver lining to these blue clouds, as it's 5 more years of Tories. Instead it's 5 more years of Tories. There was fear, the balance again. Oh, it's 5 more years of Tories. I know some of us won't make it through the 5 more years of Tories. Austerity once more. 5 more years of Tories is a bad time to be poor. It says 5 more years of Tories. Fracking will commence. 5 more years of Tories as they profit at your expense, at your expense.
All right, welcome back. So we just got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll let you go. But I appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you. I was wondering what made you want to pick up the guitar.
You know, I still don't really know the answer to that. I don't really call myself a guitarist, which any guitarist watching my videos will probably agree with. I write lyrics, you know, that's why I do the poetry as well. I like writing. I write stories and stuff as well, but people just don't see them. But I'm a writer, really. So, like I said before, for years I played bass in punk rock bands, and I kind of wrote a lot of the lyrics and would give them to singers. And then I got tired of people singing my lyrics wrong, so I started singing them myself and playing bass. And then eventually it just seemed easier to do everything myself. And the whole reason that this kind of solo project started is because of a song called "It Will Get Better," which is on YouTube as well, and on the first EP, I believe. And that was basically a friend of mine was having a really bad time mentally. She was in hospital, having tried to take her life a few times in a short period of time. And I was visiting her regularly. And one time after coming home from seeing her in hospital, you know, when someone you care about is in that situation, you just feel like so powerless, and there's so little you can do to even get into their headspace, let alone like help them get out of it. So I wrote this song in like a one take kind of thing. And I didn't play guitar, but I had a guitar, and I played bass in bands for a while. So I kind of put the few chords I knew underneath the lyrics, and then had a song. And then I was like, well, I want to put this song out so she can hear it. So then I made a YouTube channel, which is the YouTube channel I still have, and put the video on it. And then I wanted people to see that. So then I made a Facebook page, which is the one I still have, Hena Music, check it out, to promote that, you know. So the whole reason this thing started was just because of one song, to try and help a friend. And she's doing much better now. She's all good. Happy to be honest.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, not entirely because of my song. I can't take all the credit. I just tried. But yeah, so I kind of stumbled into the acoustic thing really, and then it did all right. And like I say, it was nice to take a break from organizing other people. And I've had other bands. I've had another band since I started doing this as well. This was always kind of meant to be a side project, but I then am not in that band anymore, and this has become the main outlet for music. So yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I want to try and get some full band thing going again at some point, because it is just a bit more fun. But what drew me to the guitar is desperation, really, to get material out. And not have to work with other people, hence the Desperation demos.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna
was
tie
the
that
whole
back
thing.
to it and say, oh, that's why you named it that. I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first EP kind of dramatically is like, which my friend Tommy drew, who I actually worked with in previous band, Disposable Lovers, is just like me in like a desert or something with just the CD. It's like very, the style is quite nice, so it makes it look quite nice, but it's very dramatic about the where I thought I was at the time. The desperation is visible all over it, you know.
Oh, I love it. I have to ask you about your mohawk, man. Are you gonna keep it growing to even taller, or is that about is that optimal height?
I don't know, man. It's probably been longer. I've had this for a long time now. I got this cut in when I was 16. As soon as I left school, because you know you can't really do this in school.
Wow.
So as soon as I left school, I went from having like long curtains, like metalhead kid, to like big mohawk. I just flipped the hair upside down because I thought it looked cool, and I was really into the Exploited. I still really am into the Exploited. I think they're awesome. And I've seen a band called Gallows. I don't know if Gallows got that big in America or not. Do you know Gallows?
I'm not familiar with them.
Okay, they're a British hardcore punk band from Watford, I believe, just outside London, or just around London. They were great. Anyway, their first two records, when they had a singer called Frank Carter, were incredible. I saw them very early on. I went to a couple of their shows on my own, kind of before I was really in the punk scene, and they just blew me away. And then I was just like, oh, this is the thing. Not so much the metal thing now. I'm all about this, the energy and everything of it. So they got me kind of obsessed with punk rock. And then I got this cut in, like I say, when I left school. So I've had it for like 10 years now. And it's been longer, probably. It's definitely been shorter. It's definitely been redder. You're kind of putting me to shame on the color a little bit, because this is fading out. I'm kind of refusing to dye it until someone lets me play on a stage, because it seems like that's the appropriate time, but that might be a really long time. So I might have to just bite the bullet and buy some hair dye at some point. But yeah, it's been longer, I think, and it will get longer because all the hairdressers are shut, so it will get longer because I can't cut or shape myself.
That's awesome. Have you ever had it any other color than red?
No, and people have asked me to have it different colors for years, but you know, once you've got a thing, you just kind of stick with the thing. And also, I support two football teams, not soccer, football teams, Arsenal and Exeter City, and they both play in red, so it works. If I dyed my hair like bright green and then went to an Exeter City game, that I'd be wearing like Plymouth colors, and that would not go down very well. So it's nice to kind of, it fits with all of my my sporting alignments as well as just something I stole from what I.
It's funny because my favorite hockey team is the New Jersey Devils, and they're red as well, so it works for my hockey team.
See, it makes sense. You got to line it up, man.
That was all the questions I had. Is there anything you wanted to say to your fans?
Oh God, hello. I've never met any fans before. It's a pleasure to meet you. No, just lots of new music coming soon. Thank you for anyone who's either stuck with me for all these years of acoustic nonsense, or people who've just found me. Yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds in terms of, God, I feel like I'm doing like a political, I feel like I'm at the inauguration now, you know, like we will overcome, we will get better together, united, we will be the future. Yeah, I don't know, listen to The Clash or something. That's my message to people.
Hena, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Hena, thank you. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.